Coach Teresa Ford here, and this is the Guiding You Home podcast. This is a thought-provoking and often humorous approach to moving you closer to the only one who can genuinely help you live a life of abundance and prosperity. Sound good? Yeah, it's you that needs to go within so you can sit in the driver's seat of your life, co-creating with God. So make room for more light and knowledge. As you continue to listen, you will discover elements of how to lead with your inner light, how to act on your specific promptings, and how to follow your spiritual intuition so you can fulfill the measure of your creation. Thanks for being here, and let's dive in. Okay, welcome. This is fun. I love doing these podcast episodes because it just brings more light and knowledge. Like, it's not the things that I say, but it's the things that you hear. And that's the spirit talking. I have spoken to a lot of people that aren't sure they can hear God. They're not sure if they can hear God's word for them. And personal revelation is the most important thing for us to have, because who knows us better than God does? And what's good for somebody else is not necessarily good for you. And there's a lot of noise in the world. I mean, I was in the fitness space for a very long time. And I can't tell you how confused people got. When they came to me, I'm like, well, what is your body telling you? And they're like, I don't know. It's telling me it doesn't like being overweight. It's telling me that I eat too much. It's telling me that I'm tired. And it's like, well, yes. And it's never wrong. You're right. When it feels good, you know it. It's kind of like when you do good, you know it. Nobody really has to tell you you're doing a good job, right? So listening to your inner guidance system is the same thing. It's listening to what yourself is telling you. And we dismiss it because we're like, oh, fad diet. Oh, thought leader. Oh, and we're outside of ourselves in every direction. We're listening to family members, friends. I mean, it's nice that they have good advice, but it's not necessarily what you needed to hear. So it's important to dive in and do the work. And when I say that, people are like, I have dove in. I did do the work. It's like, probably to a really good extent. But until we get clear on knowing how we're hearing God in all the different ways, there are so many ways to hear God talk to us. Sometimes it's your curiosity. Sometimes it's an inclination. Sometimes you're just following an impulse. Sometimes it's just, a good idea that you thought was yours. And so let me just also say, when you're not being guided, you feel yucky. You feel lost. You feel completely untethered. So there's a difference between maybe not knowing particularly what direction to go, and so you're just like, I'll just take a shot in the dark. That's fine. But if you really don't have guidance right then and there, you know it. You feel completely in the dark, like dark. So just know you are being guided. When you have an inclination of, I think I'll go do this, and I think I'll go do that, you are being guided. But if you use your emotional guidance system to draw closer to God, you do it there's more of a deliberate intention there. And, okay, so there's a couple things here. I want to just separate. When you're using your internal guidance system, you're doing things that take you in a good direction. You're feeling good because you're doing good. Does that make sense? Let me just give you an example. When I was unfit, it's because I was doing things that were undoing the thing I wanted, which was to feel good. And so when I started doing things that were more like what a fit person would do, I felt good. I felt fit. So it's when you're doing things that feel like God that you're feeling him more. Okay, so there might be an unpopular opinion stated here in the next minute or two because a lot of people believe Satan can tempt you to do bad. I'm going to say that when you're doing good, it's really hard to be tempted or led astray. You're just not in the realm. So I always say, like, the emotional guidance system is you on a sliding ruler. Like, you're either sliding towards God or you're sliding away from God. And it just depends on where your mental focus is. Your mental focus, if it's on somebody else doing something you don't like, you're sliding away from God because now you're frustrated, you're disgruntled, you're, unhappy, you're feeling fear, you're feeling like justice isn't being served, whatever it is. If it's on the negative emotional scale, you are sliding away from what it is that you want to feel better about. Can Satan tempt you down there? Can he tempt you to keep going in that direction? I think so. But if you're sliding in the upward direction, let's say God is up, Satan is down. If you're sliding in the upward direction, you're doing things, it makes you feel good. You're like, I actually said my prayers today. I actually was in meditation today. I was actually drinking water today. I was actually doing things that make me feel good. You're sliding closer. I always say that God is truth and truth feels good. And truth means nothing is missing. That's the actual Hebrew translation of truth. Truth means nothing is missing. So when you're sliding towards God, God feels like truth. When you're sliding away from God, it doesn't feel as good because truth is missing. Does that make sense? So if you're on the sliding rule and you're the one that's moving, God's not moving. He's steadfast and immovable. He's not like sliding all over the place in indecision and losing focus. He's not doing that. We are. So it's us. It's always us. God is here at the end of this upward ruler, and let's call it Satan down at the other end. And we're either going in one direction or the other. And we do that using our mind. So our emotional guidance system is actually helping us move either closer to God because we feel good in God. The difference is one O. Or we're feeling less good. Most of us are not feeling like the full spectrum of negative emotion all the time. Most of us are sliding somewhere in between. So the way you feel is a good indicator that you're either sliding in the direction you want to go or the direction you don't want to go. So how this all comes together in prayer and feeling closer to God is when you're doing the things that brings God into your life, it just feels good. You're on track. You're doing the thing that you said you wanted to do, which was draw closer to God. So you have to challenge your mental beliefs. Are your beliefs taking you closer to God or further from Him? Because if you hear personal revelation and then you don't act on it and you go back to old thought habits and you go back to doing what you used to do that didn't, it pulls you off track, it throws you into a triggered state, your nervous system's off, you're just, and it's not going well. Maybe your ADHD is high and you're all over the place and squirrels are everywhere. Like whatever is happening, it's not the intention you had when you were saying your prayers. Please help me to do X, Y, and Z. Please help me to feel better is what you're saying in your prayer. We're always asking for more because in the having of more, we feel good. It makes us feel good, right? So I want more patience, more kindness, more money, more whatever. The moreness is going to make us feel good, or at least we think so. And so that's why we ask for it. So if your thoughts are not going towards the moreness of what you're asking for, then you're probably sliding in the other direction and you're not hearing or acting on your inclinations, your little thoughts. So let me just tell you a little story. So I was needing a job really bad back in 2009, and all I could hear from people were, no one's hiring. But we were going to be homeless if I didn't get a job, so it was kind of important. and I was kind of mad and in a really poor state of mind. But I took time to pray because I needed to feel better that I could even get a job. It had been 18 years since I'd had a job. And so my resume had nothing on it of worth. Like, I worked in Wendy's when I was in high school. So I just kind of faked the resume and put a smile on my face, and I set out to find a job. And I had a few rules around it, that I wasn't going to do some boring work in some back office, that it was going to be meaningful and teach me something new, and so I could bring something new home to share with the family, kind of thing. And so I went and I just got in the car, and with a prayer in my heart, wanting to find this job, trusting that God knew where there was one when I would have no idea. Like, the internet was just barely a thing, right? And so it wasn't where we would normally go to find a job. Not everybody was using it. So I started to drive out of the driveway, and there was this thought in the back of my head. Now, who was talking? Was it me? I don't think so. Because the thought was, go check out the gym at the end of the street. And I was like, oh, wait a minute. We are renegotiating. There's no way in hell that I'm going to go to the gym at the end of the street. But turns out that's where the job was. That was the first place I could get hired. I could have money start coming in really quick. It was a great entry starting point for me and my little fake resume. But all the answers were in my ability to say yes to a prompting that I had that came from God in direct relationship to the question I was asking, please help me get a job. Now, my attitude was not all that great at the time, so I was sliding away, but I followed through, and that's an important element of receiving personal revelation and sliding towards God, using it, is that I was going and doing anyway, even if my attitude wasn't great yet. Because after I was hired, I was like, paycheck, it's gonna be okay, right? But I was hired to work in the nursery at a gym, and I was like, oh my gosh, what am I doing? I am watching other people's kids for a paycheck and not spending time with my own. No, this is not the high, exciting job that I was looking for. But it only took 2 weeks before an opening came open at the counter, and I was able to start making commissions on sales, and that turned into me watching, because I could be out on the floor a little bit. I was watching the personal trainers, and all their clients were a little bit bored, and I was thinking, why wouldn't you have fun with your clients? And so that's what it just turned. One thing turned into another, and I was in the right place, doing the right thing, but I never would have come up with that. I was thinking, go to an office. I was not thinking work at a gym, not even close. Like, I was like, I am way too exposed in a gym. But when you ask, do not doubt that the answers you're getting are going to be better than you expected. That is one way to check your mental space. Am I willing to do what the prompting is telling me to do, so that I can have the gifts that I was asking for? Really important. So that's just one way. A second way is, if you want to hear God, make sure your nervous system is regulated. And when I say that, I'm talking about triggers. I have a podcast episode on triggers, and it was, I don't know. Anyway, it was like 3 or 4 episodes ago. If you 28, number 28. Anyway, in these trying times that we have, our interactions with our family members, our interactions with our friends, everybody believes a little something different. There's a lot of untruth being told in the world, and we're all trying to sift to find the truth and that sort of thing. We can be triggered. We can be triggered in our relationships with people. We can be triggered in our experiences around other people. For some reason, it's the people. It's not necessarily just the experiences. It's usually with interactions with other people. And so when you're triggered, you are usually in a negative emotional state. And depending on how negative is how triggered. So you might be in fight or flight. You might be in fawn. Fawn mode is I'm just going to be a chameleon. I'm going to be what you need me to be. I'll just change my colors for you. That's fawn mode, and that's a learned trauma response. And then there's freeze, where you're like, I don't even have a game planned for this particular situation. So another word for that is blindsided. When you are in fight or flight, like you're super defensive, that's fight, right? When you're just like, I want to run away, that's flight, right? And then fawn is people pleasing, and freeze is I don't have a game plan and I'm just gonna, die. So you're just kind of frozen in that, in like a statue. Like I can't even process this. So when your nervous system is dysregulated, you are really not able to draw closer to God in that very moment, because everything's kind of stuck. Your energy is stuck. So it's important for you to take a second and reset. One of the ways you can reset is actually lacing your hands behind your head. This is super simple, right? And whether you're sitting up or lying on your back with your knees up and your feet flat, just hold your head straight and look to the right. Okay, so I reset really easily on the right side. And so you're either going to yawn, or you're going to swallow, or you're going to sigh, which is kind of like 2 breaths and an exhale. And then reset, your eyes are forward, and then just look the other direction. So for those of you that are not watching this video and you're listening to the podcast episode, I have my hands laced behind my head. My head is forward position, and I'm just making my eyes go as far to the left as possible. There. And so that was a swallow for me. And that's how you can reset your nervous system. It works in your amygdala, your brain, where your memories lie. And it's a really effective way to get out of this deep state of nervous stuckness, stuck energy. And it helps you get back to a space where you can move again. Your energy can move. You can find God. You can go back to prayer. You're not fighting, the goodness of God, if you will. Sometimes we just resist. If you're resisting, reset your nervous system. That's super important. Another way to actually draw nearer to God using your emotional guidance system is establishing your spiritual compass. You got to know what you want and where you're going with it. Like, where's due north for you? What are your goals? What's your divine plan? What's the path that you feel like you should be on right now? That's really important. So let me also just put this caveat out there that you are on your path and you can't get off. But sometimes that path can be bumpy. Sometimes it can have scary downhills, and sometimes it can have forever uphills. So if you want to even it out and get a little more balanced in your life, you have to have more direction, more focus, more understanding, and clarity as to where you're going and why. Your why will take you there. It's very easy. You become a creator, you become somebody that loves to have fun, and you're just loving the life you're living. That is an emotional compass that's set and unwavering. But if your emotional compass is kind of spinning like you're at the North Pole and there is no polar north, it's important for you to just get in a place where you're writing it down gets you clarity. Most of the time when you start writing and you're not clear, you're just going to write about everything you don't want. I want this to stop. I want this person to change. I want this to, be easier. Like whatever it is, you're probably going to write about what you don't want, but just take those as prompts, because then you can go back and write the opposite of those things. And when you write the opposite, it changes your compass, your emotional guidance system, and points you in a direction where there's action now. You can take the action that, like I said, if you want to be fit, you do what fit people do, and you act like you're fit every day, doing those fit eating habits and those fit resting habits and those fit exercise habits. And next thing you know, you're fit. Like, that's how you get fit. You act like a fit person even when you're not. So if you want to, if you've got these goals, you want to intentionally feel a certain way, you want to intentionally be a different person, you want to intentionally incur a new skill, you have to do the things that goal requires. And in an emotionally regulated state, and you're watching your thoughts, that they're not going downhill, they're going in an upward direction towards God, you are going to find yourself in a place that you wanted to be. Just out of habit of doing the things that you would do in that situation. So also, the fourth thing that I want to bring up here is making room for yourself. So assessing how you're spending your time, especially if they are in non-productive ways. Where is your time being spent? Are you doing those things that would lead you to do the thing you say you want to do? Now that you've got clarity, you've done the writing, you've assessed what you don't want, so you can decide what you do want. Where are you going with this, and what are you doing with your time? Assessing how much time you spend thinking about what you don't want is just wasted energy. That's what most people feel exhausted, because they're spending all their time spinning their wheels, and it usually is a mental emotional connection, and your spirit's like, okay, I'm just gonna twiddle my thumbs, I'll be over here when you finally make a decision. But your spirit's like, let's go, let's play, let's have a good time, let's have a good life, let's be creators, let's have fun, let's enjoy this ride. That's your spirit all the time. Love and light, it will not change. It can't change. Your spirit does not change. It is what it is. So that means that Controlzilla, your brain, and your emotional guidance system are not in sync. Your brain is doing one thing and it's just running wild, running amok, and no one's reining it in. And your emotional system is like, this feels terrible. We're moving. The negative emotion says you're moving away from your goal. And the goal is what your spirit says, let's do this. Let's learn a new skill. Let's see what more feels like. Let's, play with the big boys. Let's go have a good life. Let's, create memories. That your spirit is asking for that. Your brain's like, oh, but we can't because of this. Or, here's my limiting belief. Or I'm going to focus on my neighbors and why their yard's a mess and it's reflecting poorly on me. Whatever it is that your brain's doing, if you have a negative emotional reaction to it, your brain is not in agreement with your spirit. They are at odds. And your emotional guidance system, how you feel, is letting you know. So there's a lot to sift and sort here. You can kind of feel it. But just getting the idea, the gist of this, without practicing, and I'm going to say it, this is the unpopular opinion again, it takes nothing less than a year to practice these principles over and 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 still over and over and over. It's just, life is going to provide you with all the opportunities over and over and over and over. And every time you get to decide, am I going to let my brain go and just run wild and burn down houses? Or am I going to rein it in and make it focus on the thing that I want and the direction I'm going and all the fun that awaits for me out there for the rest of my life? And I don't care how old you are. Remember, this is not an age thing. I have a friend, bless her heart. She has decided she's too old. Life is over. And we're the same age. And I'm like, no. That is not true. If it's true, it'd make you feel good. Remember, we're thinking about our false beliefs, right? If it makes you feel good, there's a lot of truth involved in it. It may not be the whole truth, but there's a lot of good truth. And if it doesn't make you feel good, your brain and your spirit are at odds, because that's not true. It's not holding the fullness of the meaning of the word truth, which is nothing is missing. So when you are ready to truly draw nearer to God using your emotional guidance system, you will use these 4 tools. You're going to check your mental thought patterns. You're going to regulate your nervous system. You're going to establish a spiritual compass and decide which direction you are going to go. And you're going to make room for yourself, assessing time. Where are you spending your time productively, and where are you spending your time unproductively? And if you don't have time for yourself built in to be productive, meaning pray, read your scriptures, meditate, do the things that bring you closer, slide you up that scale towards God where He is, then it's no wonder that you feel tired. Like the level to which you are investing yourself in those good ways that help you find more truth, more light, more knowledge, more love, more agreement between your head and your spirit. Like when you invest your time to do those things and get focused and clear, you are going to be less tired. But if you're just under stress, running with like a chicken with your head cut off, like doing all the things, trying to please other people, your nervous system is dysregulated, you're triggered all the time, you're like, those things, exhausting, absolutely exhausting, and it's getting you nowhere. So assess, check yourself, see where you're at, and make those little adjustments and improvements. It's going to be the best thing that you ever do for yourself. So, thanks for listening. Thanks for doing your part to improve you, because when you show up, everything gets better. Thanks for listening. I invite you to leave your feedback and share your aha moments as you listen to this podcast. Also, you can access more information or any of the programs, courses, or worksheets that I've mentioned on these episodes on my website at teresaford.life. Or what I would really love is for you to connect with me on Instagram at teresaford.coaching and on Facebook at Coaching with Teresa Ford, so I can give you more interesting insights and further coaching to help you fulfill the measure of your creation.